Chapter 7 Inventory Valuation Part 2. And I will talk about calculation of shortage and estimated shortage in this part. So what is shortage and how can you calculate this shortage? When the retailer takes a physical inventory, the actual value of the inventory as determined by the physical count is compared with the book inventory and adjust the books so that they agree with the physical inventory. But oftentimes you will see some differences between the physical inventory and your book inventory. At that time, you can call that as either shortage or overage. So when your book inventory is larger than your physical inventory, that is called as your shortage. As your physical inventory is more accurate number, so if you have like a bigger number for the book inventory than this physical inventory, then you can say that as your shortage or shrinkage. And if you have your inventory of the physical inventory exceed your book inventory, that's called as overage. But oftentimes you will see more about this shortage or shrinkage of your inventory. So let's look at how you can calculate this shortage. So shortage percent can be calculated if you know the amount of shortage and net sales. So that's gonna be amount of shortage divided by net sale is gonna be your shortage percent. And let's talk about some reasons of these shortages. First, theft. It can be either external or internal theft. Maybe you heard about the shoplifting, so maybe customer theft or employee theft will cause the shortages. And also if you have any breakage, that's gonna be the cause of the shortages. And if you have incorrect measuring and weighing, that's gonna be the part of the shortages. And giving samples will be the example of the shortages. And improper handling of sales transaction, of course, and incorrect counting of merchandise will cause these shortages. And if you have any fail to record merchandise on loan, that's gonna be the reason and cause of the shortages. Then let's look at the example. During the spring season, February 1st through July 31st, the lingerie department had net sales of $350,000, and on July 31st, a physical inventory showed $87,110 worth of merchandise. The book inventory showed $92,610. What was the shortage percent for this season? So based on the formula that you learned in the previous slide, you can calculate your shortage percent here. But before that, you also have to calculate your dollar amount of the shortage. So I said the difference between the physical inventory and your book inventory will be the shortage. And in this case, your book inventory is larger than your physical inventory, so that's gonna be the shortage. So let's go ahead and calculate from your dollar amount of the shortage. So that will be your book inventory minus physical inventory, and in this case, 92,610 minus 87,110, then you got this 5,500 as your shortage. And if you know this, you can calculate your shortage percent because you also know your net sales. So your shortage percent is gonna be your dollar shortage amount divided by your net sale. So that's gonna be 5,500 divided by 350,000, and that's gonna be 1.57%. So you can say that you had 1.57% shortage of your inventory. Then also you can also estimate your shortage based on your past experience. You may have, when you calculate this shortage percentage throughout the years, you can, every previous year, you can have this record about your shortages. So this estimated shortage is the amount of shortage that has probably occurred based on past experience. And estimated physical inventory also can be calculated if you know this estimated shortage, because that is gonna be the value of inventory as determined from the record after adjusting for estimated shortage. So that's gonna be the difference between your big inventory and minus your estimated shortage. So here are the formulas. So how can you calculate your estimated shortage and estimated physical inventory? So your estimated shortage can be calculated as net sales multiplied with estimated shortage percent. And this estimated shortage percent can come from your past experience. And you can calculate your estimated physical inventory if you know your closing book inventory and if you know your estimated shortage amount. So because that's going to be book inventory minus shortage. And let's look at the example here. Calculate A, estimated shortage, and B, estimated physical inventory using the following information. So what you have to do, you have to see these all figures here and you have to calculate your estimated shortage, and also by calculating your closing inventory and estimated shortage, you can also calculate your estimated physical inventory. In this case, you have all this information about opening inventory, net purchases, net sales, and net markdowns, and employee discount, and you also had this estimated shortage percent. Because if you know this percentage, maybe this is from your previous, past experience, and you can calculate the amount of your estimated shortage, and based on the above this estimated shortage percent, all this opening inventory, net purchases, net sales, net markdowns, and employee discount, you can calculate closing book inventory. Then you can calculate your estimated physical inventory. So let's look at that, how to solve the problem here. So first, what you have to do, you have to calculate, estimated shortage is gonna be at the bottom here, and I can show you that later, after we calculate the closing inventory, but here it is. That's gonna be your estimated shortage. Your estimated shortage is gonna be net sales multiplied with your estimated shortage percent. So 76,000 multiplied with the 1.6%. So you got your estimated shortage here. But before we talk about this more, let's go ahead and talk about your closing book inventory. So closing book inventory, so you already learned this, how to calculate it from your previous part. So from this example, and I give you this formula here, you can calculate your total merchandise handle and you can calculate your total deduction. If you remember, your book inventory, your closing book inventory can be calculated as total merchandise handled minus your total deduction. So let's do that first. So your total merchandise handled is gonna be your opening inventory plus your net purchases here. So that's gonna be 100,700. Okay, and then you can calculate your total deduction, which should be deducted from your total merchandise handle to be calculated as your book inventory. In this case, you have net sales, and you have net markdowns, and you have employee discount. And if you combine all these three, and you got this 81,800 as your total deduction. And what's gonna be next? To calculate the closing book inventory, you're gonna do total merchandise handle minus your total deduction. So you got this 18,900 as your closing book inventory. So you got that here. So 18,900, and if you know this, and if you know the dollar amount of the estimated shortage, you can calculate your estimated physical inventory. So for A, I already talked about this, and let's do that one more time. So estimated shortage is gonna be your net sales, which is coming from here, multiplied with your estimated shortage percent, which was from your previous figure. So 1.6%. So your estimated shortage amount is gonna be $1,216. So that's that. And what you have to do, you have to calculate your estimated physical inventory. How can you calculate it? The formula is also at the bottom there. So that's gonna be your closing inventory minus your estimated physical, the shortage. then you can calculate your estimated physical inventory. So 18,900 minus 1,216. So you got 17,684 as your estimated physical inventory. So the reason you do it, because it's gonna help you to understand about your merchandise more accurately. Because if you have a history about these shortages, you can kind of predict to make more accurate information about your inventory, physical inventory. So that's that example. And let's talk about more the review about this concept. So book inventory, physical inventory, to understand this estimated shortage, you have to understand this. If you remember, right, we just talked about this in this chapter 7 part 2. The difference between your book inventory and physical inventory can be considered as shortages or overage, but oftentimes you're gonna have shortages because oftentimes you have like a higher number for your big inventory than your physical inventory. Then you have to know about the difference between these two. And book inventory is again the value of the inventory as determined from record rather than a physical count. And your physical inventory is gonna be more accurate value. The value of the inventory is shown by an actual count of the merchandise. So if you know this, and if you have a past history about these shortages, you can calculate your estimated shortage. So that's gonna be the amount of shortage that probably has occurred on the basis of past experience. And if you know this estimated shortage, you can also calculate your estimated physical inventory. That will be the value of the inventory as determined by book inventory after an adjustment has been made for estimated shortage. So that's gonna be your closing book inventory minus your estimated shortage. Then you can calculate this estimated physical inventory. Okay, so today we talk about the shortages and how you can estimate these shortages. So this was a little bit shorter than the previous one, but we're gonna talk more details about how you can evaluate your inventory based on the cost and the retail the next time. And that's gonna be more intensive the next time to talk about this valuation method about the inventory. But that's it for today, and I'll see you the next time to talk more about this inventory valuation. So that's it.